So we're going to focus on zucchini and cucumbers. They're wrapped in plastic because I've cut the ends off. But I just wanted to tell you that they look quite similar because they're long and green, but they have a different composition for as far as water content, which makes them a little bit different to use. So some things you can interchange and some things you not. So for the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on some of the components for the salad. And because some things have to sit or marinate and some things have to cook and cool, I'm going to be going back and forth between things. So it'll be a lot easier when you do it because you're just going to straight forward and go through the recipe and you'll be at home and you can wait. I want to try to get everything in. So I'm going to start off with pickling the red onions. And you're going to take your onion, and I, in the past, have taught you how to cut the onion for real pretty, like dicing, but today we're going to make rings. So usually I tell you to cut your onion where the lines are, but today we're going to make rings, so you're going to go across the lines. So I'm going to turn this to its side, and I'm going to make some rings, and about a fourth of an inch thick because they're going to get pickled. So I go make some slices. I'm going to pull out the rings and we're going to put them in this bowl right here, okay? Now, because we're working with a pickling liquid, just like when you see, like pickles in a jar or people do canning, you want to work with glass because the pickling liquid, obviously has an acid, which in this case is going to be the red wine vinegar, the apple cider vinegar. And you want to make sure that it doesn't leave a metallic taste if you're using a metal bowl. So these are my onions, and you can put more in there with your whole thing. I'm only going to put half in there so it fits in here. Okay, so we have our onions ready in circles and rings right there. And then we're going to go over to the little cooking unit I have here, okay? We want to make sure that we dissolve our liquid, our pickling liquid. So I'm going to put mine on medium to high. I'm going to put in my half a cup of apple cider vinegar. And this is just to make sure that it gets dissolved in hot and warm so that when I put it over the onions, it pickles it pretty fast. So that's a half cup of that. I'm going to put in my 4 teaspoons of kosher salt. And it seems like a lot of salt, but it's for the pickling purposes. So sprinkle that in. And then I'm going to put my 3 tablespoons of just white granulated sugar. Sprinkle that in. And we're going to dissolve it, okay? I'm going to take my whisk. I have my plastic whisk because I don't want my pan to scratch. These are special pans that have a magnetic bottom for the induction cooker. I'm going to bring that up to temperature. Make sure all the salt and sugars dissolve before we pour it over the onions. Because we're going to want those to sit for about 20 minutes before we're going to incorporate the liquid into a vinaigrette, and we're going to incorporate the onions into the composed salad, okay? This smells nice and vinegary. Mine's probably going to dissolve faster than yours because I have this induction cooker. Yeah, the heat coming off of that. Onions are making me want to cry. Let's see, almost there. Doesn't necessarily need to come to a boil, but as long as your salt and sugar dissolve, you're good. All right, stirring that. Look, almost there. After you pour this on your onions, it's going to turn your liquid kind of like a pink color because of the color of the onions. All right, we are dissolved. So I'm turning this off. Nice and dissolved. I'm going to pour that right over my onions in a glass bowl. Remember that, a glass bowl. Scrape it all out. Here. And I'm going to make sure those are soaking really well, okay? Every once in a while, I'm going to toss them around, but for right now, I'm going to stay in there. You can put a little plastic over them if you want to for the fumes. I'll show you how to do that. Right now my eyes are a little burny. Put that in there, and I have a little tongue. Every once in a while I can toss them around in there. Okay, put a little bit of plastic on that. All right, there we go. You can just leave it loosely. It doesn't need to be tight. That's just for me because of my eyes. It seems to be burning today. All right, every once in a while we'll toss it around. Okay, so we have our red onions are pickling now. This is like a quick, fast pickling. You would normally, you know, pickling takes a lot longer if you do it like in your jar, but this is just a real quick one for your salad. Okay, so now we're going to proceed with the quinoa, which is another component of our salad. And if you don't like quinoa, you can use this broth. If you don't like quinoa, I understand that, but this does work really well with this salad because it's very hearty, it's nutty, it has a really nice flavor. But if you don't like quinoa, you can use like a couscous. And then you just cook it to however your box instructions are. But at the very end, I'll tell you how to toss it with the olive oil to keep it from sticking. So when you toss it in your salad, it you know, it doesn't, you know, bundle up in little clots of, you know, balls of. You want it to be very thin and loose when you toss it. Okay. I'm going to put this on medium high. I'm going to get my broth up to a boil. It's kind of already warm, so I'm going to, if you don't want to use broth and you want to use water, just make sure you put a couple of pinches of salt in it. This is 1.5 cups of the liquid. And I have broth for mine. I'm using a chicken, so it's just kind of very neutral flavor. Bring this up to a boil just like we do with our pastas, okay? So then I have my quinoa. While we're waiting for that to come to a boil, what I try to do is, because I need to cool it, and oh, almost forgot, on our pickling of the onions, we want to put a timer for like 20 minutes. Let's put it for like 17 since we've already started doing that. I like to get like a tray, just any kind of a cookie tray. I put aluminum foil on it because it helps with the conduction when I'm cooling it in the fridge. And I also put a piece of parchment paper on top of that, so that when I am done with the quinoa, I pour it onto the parchment paper tray, and then it goes in the refrigerator to cool, okay? And then I'm gonna show you a trick on how to getting the quinoa off of the tray with the parchment paper into another bowl, and it makes it easier than having to scrape all the little pieces of quinoa off.
Could you use farro?
You could use farro, yes. And I've used barley as well. That's very hearty and like kind of nutty flavor. So you could use both of those, right? Quinoa seems to be more common, it's become more popular, so a lot of people are using that. And I'll show you with the quinoa, most of them have cooking instructions, so it'll tell you like how much ratio to put with your 1 cup. This is a 1 cup of quinoa, and it's gonna go with 1.5 cups here. Now, I'm gonna have a little, like, not really zoom in too much because then it loses the, but you'll see what it looks like. And when we cook it, it's gonna have a little round circle, and that helps tell you when it's ready. Although most packages are pretty precise about the time. It's boiling now. Come over the top there. I'm gonna sprinkle this in. And because I'm using broth, I don't need to add any salt or anything because it'll become over salty, okay? And give that a stir. All coated in there. Sounds good. Okay, let's come back up to a boil. Mine's probably gonna be faster than yours. So now I'm gonna lower it to like medium. And it needs to continue on covered for at least 15 minutes. And then we're gonna check, I'm gonna show you what it looks like with a little ring around it. 15 minutes on the timer, and that's gonna go. All right, now we're gonna move over to start working on our other components of the salad. So that's 15 on that. All right, and move over here for this. And we're gonna start working our components in our salad. All right, so let's go back to talking about cucumbers and zucchinis. So I'm gonna cut the zucchini in little dices, but I also have a fun tool where I make spiral zucchini that you see at the store when I make zucchini noodles. And I have that, and I'll show you that at the end. And I use it for a garnish on this salad or, you know, on the topping. Sometimes I put it in my air fryer and make like the fried noodles with them. And it's really good when you have a lot of zucchini in your garden. It's awesome. You find different ways to use it. I'm very fortunate that I have friends that have really big gardens and I end up inheriting a lot of good vegetables. Okay, so I have my zucchini and you're gonna take the end off. Now, zucchini has seeds in it, and technically people say it's a flower because it's a fruit because it comes from a flower, and so does cucumber. So a lot of people take the zucchini blossoms and they eat them fried with some other things like I've seen people stuff them with crab, different things, and they fry them. They're really nice. So they both come from blossoms, all right? But you'll see that the inside of this cucumber has seeds, but you're not going to see them as pronounced as you do here. The cucumber water content is completely different. It's a high water content than the zucchini, although you'll see immediately, you see the little dewdrops on that?
Keep moving.
I'm sorry, the little dewdrops on that is because it does have water in it too, okay? But not as much as the cucumber. So you can interchange and exchange them in some recipes, but let's say when you make zucchini bread, you can't switch out zucchini in that recipe for cucumber because your bread will be just a big mushy mess, okay? So let's start off with the zucchini. This, and I'm gonna do, I'm gonna dice it up for the salad, okay? And then you're gonna put it in a glass bowl, all your components except, on my recipe, it shows you that you don't have to do the whole thing in advance. So if you like to do all this cutting and chopping ahead of time, that's okay. But don't add your arugula and don't add your chives, you know? So as I make this recipe, I'm also going to not add everything in because I'll be eating this salad and I'm not gonna be able to eat everything. So I'm just taking a few of the seeds out. Seeds make, you know, when you have some of the seeds, it makes your salad kind of moist, and we're already gonna have that going on with our pickling liquid. So you don't want it to be a soggy mess, okay? I'm just taking a few of the seeds out. So that's our zucchini. Let me do the other one. And like this, you can save because you can still grate it and use it for your zucchini bread. So I keep that by making that. So I'm gonna make some strips here. Long strips. And since it's a composed salad, you want it to look nice and pretty, okay? So keep your cuts, you know, kind of uniform. And then I try to cut the cucumber and the zucchini different. So I do make them into strips, but I make one of them and cut on a diagonal or on a bias, and the other one I cut like in, you know, basically in squares. Okay, so got my zucchini. Take some of it here. And I'm gonna turn them all to the green so you can see when I'm slicing them and dicing them, how I'm cutting them on a diagonal. Okay, line them up. The side. Okay, nice and pretty. On the diagonal, so the pointed end. They'll look different from the cucumber, okay? So we're gonna take this and we're gonna put it right into our bowl. It's gonna have all of our stuff for the salad in there, okay? Cut some more of these. Up. All right. I want them a little bite size because remember, it's going to go in a nice little salad. Okay. That into the bowl. So this recipe, you know, it makes quite a bit because it's mainly for like you're going to have an outdoor, you know, party. I like to make this one for an outdoor party because some people are vegetarian stuff, so I like to have some options. Then we have our cucumber. Now, when we discussed, our cucumber has a lot more water in it, okay? I'm going to particularly peel this because I like to have a little bit of a difference between the two. But if you're going to make this salad like in advance and you're going to hold it for the time that I said to hold it, then maybe you might consider keeping the skin on it. I'm just a fan of peeling it. And then you don't have to use a Euro cucumber. You can use one of your garden cucumbers. Just think about the sizing of it, because basically, you know, a regular cucumber from your garden might be a little bit smaller and the Euro cucumber is longer. So if it says use half of it, just kind of think about the size of amount you need to use. Okay, same with this. I'm going to take my sides off. You can see where to cut with the seeds there. It kind of gives you a guide. You don't want those extra seeds because it's going to make my salad extra mushy. I get a little bit in there, I just slice it right up. All right, looks pretty good. These I'm going to cut into slices as well, but I'm going to just dice these regularly squared, okay? So line them up. I keep them the same size. There. Okay. All right. Yeah. Our cucumber. Pass it around. Okay. Now we got our cucumber. Now we're going to do our tomatoes. These are just little cherry tomatoes. You can use yellow ones, whatever you have in your garden. I'm going to cut these in half. It's about a half a cup. Okay. Use my serrator over this. I'm just sliding around. Just in half. Depending on what size yours are. Some use grape or the cherry ones. They're really big. You want to make them, you know, small enough to where they're not like too big compared to the rest of the vegetables. But I wouldn't suggest cutting them more than in fourths because it's just going to be, once again, like a little bit too soggy. I'm going to check on my quinoa and see if it needs to. It's pretty good. I'm going to lower it just a little bit. All right, it's good. Tomatoes. Now, this seems like an unlikely kind of combination. I put on the recipe, you can use peaches or nectarines. I prefer nectarines just simply because they seem to be more crispy for me, and I'm all about texture. And I don't like fuzz on peach. That's just me. So a lot of people that I've made have always told me, you know what, I prefer the nectarine because, you know, it doesn't have that fuzz in there, and people tend to like it a little bit more. So I'm going to add that to that. And I think it holds the salad a little bit better too when you use the nectarine. But a lot of people are big peach fans, and I do love peach, but I have to peel it and then it won't hold its, you know, basically it's shaped very well. So next we're going to go with the nectarines. All right, this cucumber looks so pretty in there. All right, now I'm going to cut this. Some people try to get the seed all off. It's kind of hard for me, so I'm going to tell you the truth. I'll just go right around it with the knife. I feel for it. I just like try to go around it, depending on how big the seed is. Nice and juicy right inside. And then I just go around it. That's my nectarine. Another one. Now these you can decide whether you want to cut into slices like moons or into squares. Totally up to you. I don't want it to be too big, so I'm going to cut mine into some squares, okay? Dice them. You don't want them to be too small. Think about your other, basically your other sizes in there, okay? So again, cut in half. This is nice and crisp, feels good. All right. Okay, let's see here. How much more? Use these pieces here. All right. Looks nice, really colorful and bright for the summer. Okay, I think that's plenty. All right, so do a little toss. Ready? And you see it's not watery right now, okay? That's because we haven't added all those extra seeds. A little bit of has seeds is tomatoes, but it'd be a fine because they're the small ones. Okay, so now, how much time do we have left? We still have a few more minutes left on our almost. Lower it a little more. Take a look at it. A little bit more, so it has a little bit more liquid. There. All right. So next, on the recipe, it tells you you can add in the arugula. I'm not going to add in our arugula until the very end because I want to toss off just a little bit amount and show you how to make the compost salad. I do have the chives, and I look at the chives. The chives, I like to put a rubber band around them because it helps me keep them together as I'm trying to cut them. Sometimes if you ever try to cut chives, they kind of get real out of control, slippery, and you don't even know if you're cutting them the right size. But to try to keep them uniform. Now the recipe says you can make them in big pieces. I personally like to make them in smaller pieces. So I keep them in the rubber band like this. You're crunching. You got some in your yard. There you go. Some pieces. Good. I'm not going to put it in my salad, but if I was going to go ahead and make my salad all for the party right now, I'd throw it in there. This is something you want to wait to add like toward the end or whatever. Turn it around. Okay. And there. And that should be good. All right. Like that. The rest of this. We're going to hold off on that until the end when I toss up the salad, the whole salad, and show you how to make the compost salad, okay? All right, so rip this off. Just a real quick little cleanup here. Best I can. Okay. All right, so we're going to stop there on the salad. We're going to check back on our quinoa. Let's take a look. Okay, you can come in real close there and see there's not like a bunch of liquid there, you see? Yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit of a taste just to make sure it's cooked. Sometimes their liquid can go faster than you want. That's our timer. I'm gonna put a little bit more liquid in here and let it go for 5 more minutes, okay? I think with my induction cooker, I made it steam a little bit too fast. But I don't see the little circle ring that you would normally see on it. I don't see it yet. And I think that's going to be just enough right there. I'll leave it here just in case. All right. Let that keep going. Steam a little more. And our timer says we still have 5 more minutes on this. Okay. Meanwhile, that was our timer for our pickled onions. Let's take a look at those. Okay. All right. Our water's turning a little pink, which is good. They smell delicious. The water's pink. Our onions. Smells good. That's been 20 minutes. Okay. I'm going to transfer the onions over to the salad components right here. And then remember, you're going to reserve the cooking liquid because we need a little bit of that to make the vinaigrette. So I'm going to take the onions right in here. And again, you can do all this ahead of time if you're having a party. Okay, right there. And then we're going to make a little vinaigrette for that. Okay. I need 3 tablespoons of my pickling liquid. 2, 3. And then we're going to make an emulsion out of our olive oil, okay? All right. Okay. Now whisk it in. And because the pickling liquid already has enough salt and sugar, I wouldn't be like, oh, should I add? Make the emulsion first and then taste it and then realize it's got enough flavoring in there. It's intense. There's going to be a variety of flavors going on with this thing. It's going to have the crunchiness of the nectarines of the peaches, the nice pickling liquid of the onions. So it's getting thicker. You know, the acidic from the tomatoes. Nice fun salad. And then once you add the quinoa at the end, adds a little nuttiness to it. All right, so it got nice and thick there. All right. So that's that. Gonna go ahead and pour it into the salad. A little mix while we're sitting here, so we can kind of marinate. If you wanted to cut your maybe your onions and your rings in half, you can do that. I don't like to make them too small because if someone's not a fan of it, it's always big enough where they could pull it out. Okay. Yeah. Let it marinate a little bit. Okay. So we have that going on. Later, we're going to come back and we're going to toss these chives with our 1 cup of arugula. And I'm not going to use the whole amount of this thing to toss it up. I'm going to make a small little composed one out of that, okay? I'm going to come back to that. Let me check my quinoa because we have to cool that a little bit in the refrigerator. Good. All right. We're going to turn this off. Okay. We're going to let that sit for like 5 minutes. So continue to steam. Recipe says, and then we're going to turn it out onto the parchment paper lined tray. Okay. So a little bit. All right. That. So meanwhile, we're waiting for that. We're going to start working on some of our components for the honeydew melon and the cucumber and the mint cooler. Okay, that can chill for a little while too. So I'm going to actually change gloves because I was touching a lot of onion and stuff, and I don't want it to affect the flavor of my honeydew. And I'm going to turn my tray over here. All right. Okay. I like to cut on the tray because honeydew melon is very juicy. And so if you don't want to end up with a whole bunch of ants in your kitchen at this time of year, it's best to keep sugar, off the counters or your cutting boards and stuff like that, okay? So 5 minutes on this, 2 or 3 more minutes on that. Okay. All right, so I've got my honeydew melon. I've already rinsed it. Please make sure you rinse your melons all the time. I know there's coronavirus going on right now, but also just because these things travel from all over the place, and you just want to make sure that your melon's clean on the outside so that when you cut it, if it has anything that might be contaminating, it won't go into the actual flesh of the melon, okay? So let's see here. All right. I'm going to take my edge here, and we're going to go into the melon. I might need my serrated one. We'll see. Depends on how hard this melon is. Melon. I think I'm going to use my serrated one. Yeah, there you go. There, that's like butter. All right, like that. And then you want to come down. Leave as much flesh as possible. It's going to be hard, but see, just think about it like if you're like painting it, is how I think about it. And then we're gonna get the seeds out after this, okay? Let's see if I got all the ones at the bottom there. That looks good. Nice, good. All right, so let me get rid of all this. Okay, so now I have room to work. I'm gonna get some seeds out of here too. All right, so most of the time I like to cut this in half. And then I'm going to get the seeds out. You can use a spoon, you can use a spatula. This is very juicy. There you go. Oh, it's gonna be good. Only as much juice as possible. The cooler. Okay, there's one. Let me get the other one out. Scoop, scoop, scoop. Get all the seeds. So some of them are hiding in there. Okay, so I'm going to take that away and I'm going to cut my that back. I'm going to cut my dicing, and it's going to go right into my blender. I use a Vitamix, but if you have any kind of blender at home, it should be fine. Okay, so I'm going to cut this on here so I can transfer it a little bit easier to the escapees. Okay. And this doesn't have to be pretty, okay? Because it's just going to go right into the blender and get pureed, okay? Just want it to be small enough to where, you know, it's not struggling to, you know, make it a puree, okay? So half of it here so you can see. Get all that juice in there. It's going to be yummy. I'll stop a second, and I'm going to actually transfer my quinoa so you can see it. All right. Now your quinoa, if you're making this salad, you want to make your quinoa the day in advance, you can do that because it's cool. Now what I'm going to show you how to do is how to keep it separated and everything, okay? So right now, you can use a fork or you can use a spatula. You go like this. You're going to actually pour in 1 tablespoon of olive oil to keep it loose and not clumpy, okay? So you pour that in there. Stir it around. It's nice. I would use a fork right now, but this pan is extra delicate for this unit, and I don't want to scrape it. But once I put it here on my tray, I am going to use the fork, okay? Okay. Make a nice even little layer so it can cool in the fridge really quick. But if you are going to save it for the next day because you're going to actually compose it the next day, after this cools, you can put it in like an airtight Ziploc container or even a Ziploc bag for that matter, because the oil is going to keep it from clumping up. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go into the fridge, and we're going to come back to that. All right. It should be ready by the time I finish making this drink, and then we're going to compose that salad. All right. All right. We still have to fix the rest of this in here. Get a little bit of the skin off. All right. Keep dicing it, large dices, chunks. Okay. I'm going to taste and see how sweet this is. Super sweet. So good. Okay. So I have my whole honeydew melon in there. It just about fills up the blender. Okay. I'm going to take my ½ cup of fresh lime juice right in there. I'm going to take 1 cup of fresh mint leaves. Hopefully you have some of these in your garden. Just the leaves and they've been rinsed, okay? right in there. And then take this away. And we're going to take a half of a cucumber or a whole cucumber if you have just a regular cucumber in your yard. Okay? You don't have to peel this, okay? I'm just going to dice it. All right? Now, do I want to remove the seeds? Yes, you want to remove the seeds because it's not going to make the pureeing very smooth. Let's put it that way. All right? There's enough liquid in here to keep this nice and fresh and balance out the flavor, okay? I'm gonna do the same thing with these. You can leave the peeling on though, okay? It can just be large, big chunks just to help it out in the blending, okay? That goes in there. I like to put the honeydew at the bottom because it's liquid and it'll get it going, okay? All right, now the other half of your cucumber, we're just gonna make some slices to put inside the pitcher. Now I have a glass pitcher here. You can use plastic, whatever you have, and you're just gonna make some slices. So I'm gonna use some nice real thin slices that are gonna go inside the, basically inside the jar so that it looks real pretty, almost like a garnish. It also will still help infuse the flavor, okay? Let me put a few of those in here. Pretty, pretty. All right, that should be good. All right, so we have that ready to go. Now we're gonna blend, all right? It's a little noisy. Put in your blender. You're going to puree it. So this is gonna be a little noisy. All right, that's pretty. Look how green that is. It's so pretty. Okay, we are all gonna now. We're gonna strain this over a fine mesh strainer. I may have to do it in 2 stages because they may not all fit in here, but we're gonna try. All right, strain that in there. Stir it around a little bit. Yeah. So then this extra stuff here, you can right. Now I've kept this before in the past, and I've made popsicles out of it. I've added it to Jello before, so you can do a lot of things with the extra pulp that's left with it, okay? Some people don't mind just drinking with the pulp, but drink nice and clean here. Oh, it smells so minty. Oh, it's good. All right. Anybody have any questions? No questions today?
Well, I'm muted, Mom.
Okay. Press down like that and get as much out. I'll probably restrain this one again just to get more juice out of it, but I don't want you to have to wait that long for me. More in there. We have a little time because we're waiting for our quinoa to cool. So we'll keep doing that, stirring up.
Nice color.
It is nice color, right? Wish you could smell it. It smells so good. Now, this could be a nice family, beverage where you don't have to add any, type of liqueur to it. But if you do want to, you can make the pitcher, and then as you serve it over ice, then you could add a splash of club soda or seltzer, or if you want to put a splash of gin or your liqueur of your choice, you can do that, and that way you can customize it. And that way the pitcher's there, and then your guests can feel free to, add to it to their taste. Put it in there. Let's see, we got one more batch.
What could you
Hmm?
what could you use the pulp for later?
That's what I was saying. I've made popsicles out of it. I've put them in those little popsicle things that you. My mom used to get them from Avon, but you can buy them at the store, the popsicle ones. I've also made like a lime jello, and I've added them into jello. So you can do some things like that. I mean, it's not that it's not edible. It's just that for the cocktail in the drink, if you have too much of this, it will just settle at the bottom, and it's not going to look very good, and it kind of tastes more like a smoothie than a cooler. So that's what I'm going to do with that. I've even made them, and I put them in ice cube trays, and I've added them to different things. Like some people like those green drinks, you could make them in ice cubes and drop them into green drinks because they have this has a lot of antioxidants in it, like the mint and the cucumber. All right, this is the last batch, and then we're gonna. You could even add, you could really grind this up, the pulp, with make like a granada or sorbet with it. So I don't like throwing things away. I'm just gonna transfer this to another like big sieve that I have, and then I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with it. If I'm not sure, I put it, like I said, I put it in ice cube compartments, and that way I can, if I'm only gonna make a very small item with it, I have it already portioned out. Okay, so there's that. All right, now we're gonna take it and we're gonna pour it right into the pitcher. Okay, that's a pretty picture, but all right. Can you keep your cucumber there?
Any tips for picking a good or ripe honeydew?
Oh, that is the trick. You don't want it soft. You want it, firm. Sometimes you can see it start to yellow a little bit. It's going to be super ripe. So if you want it really sweet and juicy, and you don't care about the texture, then go with the super, like a slightly yellow tinge to it, and it had a little bit of a give to the rind. This one that I bought had a little bit of a give to it, and I can smell almost the sweetness to it. So I always like to smell the melon. Okay, so think about that. You can thump it all you want to, but sometimes it's just, you never know. But I have better luck with honeydew melons than I do with watermelons. So it's kind of touch and go. My daughter gets a little upset when the watermelons are not as sweet as they should be. But the honeydew, you want to just make sure that it's not overripe, and depending on what you're going to use it for. If you're going to just slice it and serve it to people, you want to get a little bit more firm one, okay? So there's our drink. We're going to pour here. You can chill this for at least 30 minutes before you serve it. I'm going to just pour it here for us to see over ice.
Where did you get this one?
This honeydew melon, I got this one from Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's. That's where I got it from. So there's that. You can take you can make a garnish for your drink if you're having like a summer cocktail party or something. And in there, your straw. And let's taste that. Ooh, that's good. It's minty, it's cool, has a touch of sweetness, but if your children want it really sweet, you could add more sugar to it. But I think that the honeydew melon has plenty of sweetness for it. And it's great. If you want it a little bubbly, add the seltzer, add the club soda, you'll be fine.
Someone said it looks amazing.
It's so cool. This is what I'm having afterwards. All right, let's set that to the side. And I'm gonna check here on the quinoa. I think it feels pretty cool. Yes, it's cool. Okay. So what we're gonna do really quick is we're gonna make a little small composed salad. So if you're having a dinner party and you want to serve this at a dinner party, as opposed to one big giant salad like this, I'm gonna make a small portion because we're not gonna be able to eat all this today, and I want to save it tomorrow. So if you were making this for a big salad at home, you get a nice pretty bowl like this. You'd add your quinoa to this with your arugula and your chives. You toss it, leave it with a serving utensil on the table for your guests. In this particular instance, I'm just going to be the only one eating the salad for dinner. So I'm just going to make a very small amount. So I'm going to take a little pinch of my arugula. This is enough for the whole salad. So I'm going to take a little bit of my arugula, put that in there. I'm going to take a tiny bit of the quinoa. And this I would throw all in there. Okay. I'm going to take my chives. So remember, the chives and the arugula, if you're going to have a party, you don't do it to the very last minute. And then I'm going to take some of this good stuff here. Mix it up. And then I'm going to toss it. And you know, arugula is a little spicy, so this just it's a very unique salad because it's packed with flavor. It's got the spiciness from the arugula, the acidic taste from the tomato, a nice pickling taste of the onions, sweet, not spicy. It's got the crunchiness of the cucumber and the zucchini. It seems to absorb those flavors really good, and then the nuttiness as well from the quinoa. Okay. Most people are kind of surprised. They take a little bit and they always come back for more at the party, okay? So it's there. And I want to do something fun with you. If you have a lot of zucchini, I want to show you what you could even use for a garnish for this. I have this little tool that I've had since I was in cooking school. But you see at the store where they make zucchini curls or swirls, like curly fries. So if you have a lot of zucchini or if you buy this at the store, it's something that you can use. Okay? So I'm
Someone said they have the same thing.
They have one of these at home? Okay, good. So you take your zucchini. Yeah. We're going to connect it here. Oh, square it off. That must be better. Attach it. Sometimes you have to make it smaller. It's just finicky on how much the weight of the zucchini can hold. I'm going to do that. That's better. Now, okay, attach it. And you turn it. So I like to take some of this stuff, and sometimes you can toss it in the same vinaigrette. And if you want to add a little bit on that, so it makes it look really pretty fancy for your salad. Right there on the top. Okay. You put a little salt and pepper if you want to, but taste first. Taste your components in your salad first to see if this is what you want to do. Okay. I think it's really pretty. Do something like that, nice for a salad. Okay. So you have your composed salad with cucumbers, nice and crunchy and crisp, zucchini, and here the same thing. You can make one big bowl or you can make smaller bowls depending on what Maybe your kids don't like quinoa. They want to just use this. Okay. Then you have your mint, honeydew, and cucumber cooler here, and it's nice for the summertime. All right. I hope that was informational. I hope that you enjoyed it.